Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my capstone presentation. My name is Jo, and this is my project, which is called Crisis Care. It is designing trauma-informed AI triage, which is expanding crisis support for survivors of sexual assault or violence. And this is a premise here where we do not want to replace human advocacy. Okay, so this is deeply grounded in my work as certified DOH New York State crisis counselor at the Columbia Health Sexual Violence Response Office. So this is a care disclaimer in case anyone feels uncomfortable because we have a lot of sensitive topics here. Please do take care of yourselves, step out, take a drink of water. Please also know that we have our hotline. It is a confidential hotline. You can call 212-854-HELP, or that's 4357. So this is a snapshot of our agenda for tonight. Okay, so beginning with the problem. So just for context, the Columbia Health Sexual Violence Response Office is, again, as I mentioned, Department of Health, New York State certified. What that means is we support beyond the community of Columbia. The problem is, though, that within the operational hours of 9 to 5, a lot of survivors tend to call at late night. So this is what the research says. It's because delayed trauma is processed. So they need time typically after hours. So it's a lot of the overnight capacity that can't be supported by the office. So while these after hours hotlines do exist, there tends to be certain delays. And this is the same throughout other crisis centers. Research also says that having to retell trauma multiple times, it reduces a lot of the help seeking by up to 40%. So the question that I framed here in terms of a problem to solve is how might we ensure that survivors receive 24/7 immediate, consistent trauma-informed triage without requiring multiple retellings of trauma? Okay, and the solution is crisis care, which I've co-designed with survivor advocates of the SVR office here at Columbia. So when it comes to the mission and who we serve, so basically it's clear, it's really to extend the support outside of traditional operating hours. It's survivor-centric. What I want to do really is make sure that it is survivor-centric in terms of, the control goes back to the survivor, what information they share. It's highly ethical, confidential. It reduces that redundancy that I mentioned in terms of the trauma. Also, this enhances the capacity of those that support survivors, so survivor advocates and the institutions. It's not meant to replace them. Okay, so for you to be able to understand the system better, I'm going to take you through what the current triage system looks like. So again, all roles and all people involved are all certified in the process. So that's not the issue. The issue is that there are multiple handoffs, starting off with the frontline staff, typically a graduate school intern like myself. We do screens for confidentiality, safety assessment needs, and checks. The next step is we hand off the case to an intake specialist. They do more questioning to understand and assess the needs, and then followed by the case being transferred to finally a survivor advocate who will then support the survivor for very specific needs. Say if they had medical needs, they are assisted and accompanied to a hospital. Legal needs, they go to court with the survivor, or if they are a Columbia student, for any needs within the academic scenarios here, like if they need assistance with classes, if let's say the assault happened in class or something like that. So yes, there are so many pain points basically because of these operational constraints of the 9 to 5, wherein again, for after hours, we need support there. And that's why in terms of the proposal that I'm making with my triage system for crisis care, you'll see that it's really centralized into an immediate survivor-controlled digital triage. So survivors enter safely. They get to select what they need if it's just really grounding information, or if they need immediate connection to a human advocate, or if there's an urgent, imminent, life-threatening situation, directly to hotlines like 911. So it's all survivor-controlled. Survivor can share what information gets passed on to the human advocate, or they can discard it completely. And it's very human-centered. Okay, so in terms of the prototype, so this is, again, like co-created with survivors. and survivor advocate. So basically, you'll see that the cues are calming. They really are, designed to greet them with warmth and emotional safety. And in terms of how it would look like, so you'll see that survivors can choose modality. They can choose if it's a call option or a chat option, if they need, again, grounding, information or emotional support, or if it's, again, immediate connection to a human advocate. Again, everything is confidential. They can exit safely at all times. The important thing is survivors really control what they share and how the conversation progresses. So when I looked at the competitors, there are actually no direct competitors in the space, but you will see that I've looked at adjacent tools that serve different offerings similar to the space, but really there isn't something direct. So Crisis Care is the first to market solution that was really built specifically for survivors of sexual violence. I've benchmarked against these different categories like AI mental health apps, wellness platforms, other crisis centers, and response centers as well. So here in the next slide, you will see, so revenue model, I've also looked at those benchmarks to kind of have an idea. So this is a B2B nonprofit social impact partnership model, wherein, of course, survivors will always get free care. This is sustainable through the partnerships that we're making. There are 3 tiers: advocacy tier, enterprise tier, and through CSR partnerships. So this is an annual fee, basically. The projected revenue is at 255K, which I'll take you through as well in the next slide. But basically, these different tiers all help support institutions. So their support in terms of compliance is there. You have training, analytics, ethical AI governance that ensures that the mission is funded without ever having to charge a survivor. So the 255K I was referring to, when we look at the market potential, for year 1, you'll see I'm targeting 5 partners in the advocacy tier, 1 partner for enterprise, 2 CSR sponsors, and then other grants and donations. And then it's scalable from there. When you go really to the total potential market, you'll need around like 14,000 partners. These are your nationwide colleges, universities, and institutions, hospitals as well. In terms of the serviceable market, that's around 1,000 potential adopters. So these are more like bigger, larger university systems, let's say the SUNYs, the CUNYs, and a lot of this is also partnerships with hospitals that have what we call crisis or SANE units. SANE stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner Unit. So these are very specific to certain hospitals only. But yes, we're looking, year 1 is 255K. So let's talk numbers. What that looks like is basically when we look at the total operating costs for year 1, that's around 193,000, which is really built on securely making sure that safety is there for the technology behind it, the LLM, AI and ethical governance is there, the legal parts of this and making sure it's HIPAA compliant, it's there. But then, yeah, 255K comes from the revenue model. So year 1 will be a surplus of 62,000. We'll meet ROI at 32%. And then it's scalable from there as we move on to year 3. So team is very straightforward, again, because of the sensitive nature of this project. So I've consulted with my department directly at Columbia Health, and as well as the New York State Department of Health Advisory Board, because I'm also working with the Manhattan Sexual Assault Task Force. So this is a branch of that. And I do not have a specific financial ask here, but I do genuinely care about your feedback, and I thank you for caring about our survivors. That's it. Thank you so much.
Is anyone?
First of all, thank you for the great presentation. A small, for my design class, I had the opportunity to meet with the security chief at the Lincoln Center, and she said in emergency or pressing situations, leaving options to the user is never a good idea. So in the demo I saw that you were asking, at least the app was asking the user to choose what kind of help they need, and I think they wouldn't in that situation or in the moment know what kind of help or what kind of support they would need. So what do you feel about that?
Okay, no, that's very fair. One of the premises of this project is honestly giving a survivor back the agency, because control was taken away from them. So that's just really one of, based on my research and from the work that I do, but I do acknowledge that. So I think that's just more on the initial screening. Before that is the safety piece. So for example, if they were in imminent danger or anything, they automatically get connected to human support. But that part of the triage is really more on, let's say if it was just, because we actually get people that aren't necessarily also survivors of sexual violence or assault. Sometimes they just need someone to talk to. That's why grounding is there. So it's more of like a screening, but definitely I will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Great presentation, really big issue and problem. So when I'm listening to you about what you're trying to do in market, have you ever given it thought to create an agentic AI system where like you could just have natural language processing? If the person is in help, they could immediately, the system would just call whoever they need. And you made something interesting about like you need the person. I don't know if you need the person. I would almost think you could probably build a really good agent who could actually do 95% of this.
So that's a good point, but really the crux of this is also that this is built on like a human in the loop model because of how sensitive it is. There were issues, Katya's not here, but during the start of this project, there were issues that came up like in the news about like people just asking ChatGPT about, certain problems in crisis, and bad things have happened. That's why it's also just something that I want to be sure is really grounded in the principles of what we do with crisis response.
Right, but you could actually use voice and natural language processing to do the evaluation on the
Yes.
voice to predetermine the issues.
Right. And that's a part of it. But then I really firmly still believe that that human in the loop and feedback still needs to be there, because it's also just, it's the full triage system, right? So it's not really just asking those questions, but there really is the needs assessment and that grounding tool that has to be there as well, which is just, unique to this whole package, not just an LLM.
I think you have to have the human.
Yes. Yes, Dino.
Joe, is your SOM New York based, or is it nationwide, your SOM, your obtainable market?
The SOM, yes, it's New York based still. Yeah. I want to be realistic. Testing it here first. Yeah. Yes.
Awesome presentation and great main points to address. My question is, do survivors have a choice in remaining anonymous as they're interacting?
It's always confidential,
Okay.
even in the current system. And again, in this triage, it's the same. And that's why they get to choose what they do with that information.
Thank you.
Yes, Alan.
Yeah, I just really want to commend that this is trauma informed. And I think the big insight is around the retelling. I think about Antje Wegeman's project and the chain of custody of evidence in the rape kit. And so I think that you may actually be, starting this chain of, it's a kind of evidence,
Yes.
but to treat it as human and precious, I think is just, this is heart first.
Yes.
So I really want to just point to that.
I also want to say, Alan, when I saw that presentation, that actually also inspired me. I think, yes, Stanley remembers that moment. I was very emotional in that class and it meant a lot. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.